Every morning when you wake up, your mind is like fresh soil, waiting for seeds. The question is, what kind of seeds are you planting? Because the thoughts you choose at sunrise will either build your destiny or bury it. I am responsible for my future means I do not sit back and wait for someone else to determine the direction of my life. It means I no longer allow circumstances, people, or excuses to dictate what happens to me. Because the moment I accept that I am responsible for my future, I take the keys to my destiny back into my own hands. And this responsibility is both heavy and empowering. Heavy because it forces me to acknowledge that my failures are not always because of others, but because of my own choices, yet empowering because it means my successes are also within my control, and I no longer have to wait for permission, approval, or perfect conditions to rise. I begin to understand that life is not about luck, but about principles, discipline, and decisions. And when I internalize this truth deeply, I can no longer blame my parents, my background, my environment, or my past for what my tomorrow looks like, because my tomorrow is being written by the actions I choose to take today. And every single thought, every single word, every single habit is either pushing me forward toward the life I dream of, or dragging me backward into the comfort zone that keeps me average. And when I say I am responsible for my future, I recognize that no opportunity is truly lost, because opportunities are created when I prepare myself, when I show up, when I invest in myself, when I refuse to waste my time on things that don't add value to the vision I am chasing. And even though life is unpredictable, even though setbacks will come, even though pain will try to discourage me, my response is what shapes the outcome. My decisions are what transform obstacles into stepping stones, and my mindset is what either limits me or liberates me. Taking responsibility for my future also means I stop expecting external rescue, because the government won't rescue me, the economy won't rescue me, my job won't rescue me, and no wealthy relative is about to come knocking on my door with a life-changing check. If I want change, it must begin with me. And that shift in thinking separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. Because the people who succeed are not always the most talented. They are not always the most privileged. But they are the ones who decide to own their lives. To stop blaming and start building. To stop complaining and start creating. And this ownership requires courage. Because when you admit you are responsible for your future, you also admit that excuses are no longer acceptable. You can no longer hide behind, "I didn't get the chance," or "life isn't fair," because fairness is an illusion. The world owes you nothing, and the only way to claim the life you desire is to take consistent, intentional action daily. So each morning you wake up and remind yourself that your life is your responsibility. Your growth is your responsibility. Your finances are your responsibility. Your health is your responsibility. Your mindset is your responsibility. And when you take responsibility, you also step into authority. The authority to change your habits. The authority to build new skills. The authority to change your circle. The authority to rewrite the story you have been telling yourself for years. When you embrace the truth that you are responsible for your future, you start to become brutally honest with yourself about the choices you make. Because if you want financial freedom but spend recklessly, then your actions betray your words. If you want health but continue unhealthy habits, then your future will reflect your negligence. If you want strong relationships but refuse to invest in them, then you will face the consequences of neglect. And this honesty can hurt at first because it shines a light on where you have fallen short. But it is also liberating because it means nothing is final, nothing is permanent, and nothing stops you from making a new decision today that can change the entire trajectory of your life. And this is where growth begins. Growth begins the moment you say, "My results are my responsibility." And instead of resenting the success of others, you study them, you learn from them. You apply their discipline, their strategies, and their resilience, because success leaves clues, and the future you desire is hidden in the seeds of responsibility you plant every single day. The person who blames will always remain stuck in cycles of frustration, but the person who accepts responsibility begins to attract solutions, because responsibility sharpens focus. It forces you to ask better questions like, what can I do differently? What skills must I develop? What habits must I break? And who do I need to become to achieve the future I desire? And every time you answer those questions honestly, you unlock new levels of growth. You step closer to your vision, and you begin to live intentionally. And it is this intentionality that transforms an ordinary life into an extraordinary one. Because when you live with the awareness that the power is in your hands, procrastination loses its grip, fear loses its control, and the future becomes less about chance and more about choice. So when you declare every morning, I am responsible for my future, you are not just speaking words, you are activating power. You are rejecting passivity, and you are aligning yourself with the truth that you are the builder, the designer, and the architect of your destiny. I am worthy of success is not just a statement to repeat. It is a declaration that reshapes the very foundation of how I see myself. Because so many people fail in life not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, and not even because they lack discipline, but because deep down they do not believe they deserve the life they dream about. They sabotage themselves at the doors of opportunity because in the back of their minds they whisper, "This is not for me, I don't belong here, I am not enough." And those quiet lies become louder than their goals, louder than their vision, louder than their potential. But when I stand firm and say, I am worthy of success, I begin to silence those lies. I begin to dismantle the invisible walls that hold me back. I begin to reject the generational voices that told me I was not capable, and I start to embody the truth that I was created with purpose, with ability, with greatness inside of me. And because of that, I am not an exception to success, but a candidate for it. And this worthiness is not dependent on where I was born, the mistakes I have made, or the setbacks I have faced. It is a truth that exists because every single human being was designed to grow, to create, to achieve, and to thrive. To say I am worthy of success means I stop apologizing for wanting more out of life. I stop shrinking myself just to fit into the comfort zones of others. I stop pretending that I am satisfied when I know there is a burning hunger inside of me for more. Because too often people suppress their desires for greatness out of fear that others will judge them, that others will call them greedy, that others will say they are aiming too high. But worthiness means I no longer ask for permission to dream. I no longer downplay my potential just to make others comfortable. I no longer lower my standards to match the mediocrity around me. Instead, I choose to rise, to step into the fullness of who I am meant to be. And the more I repeat and believe the truth that I am worthy of success, the more my mind shifts, the more my actions align, the more opportunities begin to connect with me. Because worthiness is not arrogance. Worthiness is alignment. It is knowing that my goals are not too big. They are simply waiting for me to believe I deserve them enough to chase them with courage. Being worthy of success does not mean life will hand me victories easily. It does not mean doors will magically open without effort. But it does mean I will not sabotage myself when those doors appear. It means I will not walk away from the table of opportunity because I feel unqualified. It means I will not settle for less when I know more is possible. Because many people walk away from blessings simply because they don't think they deserve them. They enter a new relationship, but believe they are unlovable. They get a promotion, but believe they are unqualified. They start a business, but believe they are destined to fail. And those beliefs shape their behavior until their lives match their unworthiness. But when I declare that I am worthy of success, I begin to rewrite that narrative. I begin to treat opportunities as assignments instead of accidents. I begin to see challenges as stepping stones instead of roadblocks. I begin to carry myself with the posture of someone who belongs, someone who has every right to sit in rooms of greatness, someone who has every reason to stand tall and claim their place. Declaring that I am worthy of success also heals the damage caused by comparison, because comparison is one of the greatest thieves of worthiness. When I look at others and believe their success means mine is impossible. When I see someone else's achievements and assume I am behind or unqualified, I rob myself of joy and confidence. But worthiness reminds me that success is not scarce, it is abundant. And just because someone else shines does not mean my light has to dim. And just because someone else is winning does not mean I am losing. And the moment I understand that my path is unique, my timeline is different, and my success is personal, I begin to embrace the truth that I deserve to walk into everything meant for me without apology or hesitation. I am worthy of success also requires me to change how I speak to myself, because the language of self-worth is powerful. If I keep telling myself I am not good enough, not smart enough, not talented enough, then my subconscious will believe it, and I will act in ways that confirm it. But when I declare every morning, I am worthy, I deserve good things, I deserve success, my subconscious begins to align with that truth, my confidence begins to grow, and my actions begin to shift toward excellence, because worthiness is not about entitlement, it is about identity. And when my identity is rooted in worthiness, I will stop tolerating toxic environments. I will stop settling for less than I deserve. I will stop allowing fear to rob me of opportunities. And I will stop doubting whether I belong at the table of greatness. Because not only do I belong at that table, I am worthy to lead at it, to create from it, and to build a legacy that outlives me. And when I truly live with the belief that I am worthy of success, I begin to walk differently. I begin to talk differently. I begin to carry myself with quiet confidence instead of insecurity. And the world responds to that confidence. Doors that were once closed begin to open. People who once overlooked me begin to notice. Opportunities that seemed out of reach begin to find their way toward me. Because success does not chase the undeserving. Success gravitates to those who believe they are deserving. And this worthiness is not something I wait for others to validate. It is something I must affirm for myself daily until it becomes the foundation of everything I do. I am stronger than my excuses is not just a motivational line. It is a declaration of power over the lies I tell myself to stay comfortable, because excuses are the silent killers of potential. They sound convincing. They feel reasonable. They even disguise themselves as logical explanations. But at their core, excuses are nothing more than permission slips to remain stuck where I am. And the moment I start telling myself that I am stronger than my excuses, I take away their authority, I strip away their power, and I step into the truth that excuses do not control me. I control them, because every time I excuse myself from taking action, I delay my destiny. Every time I excuse myself from pushing forward, I rob myself of progress. And every time I excuse myself from discipline, I weaken the muscle of resilience inside of me. But when I rise in the morning and remind myself that I am stronger than my excuses, I arm myself with the mindset of victory. Because excuses will show up daily. Excuses will whisper to me when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when it's uncomfortable. But I refuse to bow to them, because I know my strength is greater than my resistance, and my vision is greater than my comfort. Excuses come in many forms. Sometimes they sound like I don't have enough time. Sometimes they sound like I'll start tomorrow. Sometimes they sound like I'm not ready yet. And sometimes they even sound like I tried before and failed. And while these may sound like harmless statements, they are actually chains that keep me locked away from the life I deserve, because time is never the problem, preparation is never the problem, failure is never the problem. The real problem is my willingness to let excuses rule me instead of me ruling them. But when I tell myself I am stronger than my excuses, I give myself permission to stop negotiating with them. I give myself permission to face them with courage, and I give myself permission to reject the comfort of postponement and embrace the discomfort of progress, because progress is always uncomfortable, growth is always inconvenient, and success always demands sacrifice. But the reward of overcoming excuses is always greater than the temporary relief of accepting them. When I declare I am stronger than my excuses, I take responsibility for my actions, because excuses are often my way of shifting blame. I say I didn't succeed because of the economy, because of my family, because of my boss, because of my background. But the truth is, I didn't succeed because I let excuses become stronger than my determination. And once I flip that script, once I remind myself that no external force has more control over my future than I do, I begin to see excuses for what they are. distractions, lies, illusions meant to protect me from the pain of effort. But the irony is that the pain of regret is always heavier than the pain of effort. And every time I choose excuses over effort, I am choosing long-term regret over short-term discomfort. But when I stand strong and reject excuses, I choose growth, I choose resilience, I choose discipline, and I choose to build a life that reflects my potential instead of my limitations. Excuses thrive in the mind that underestimates its own strength, because if I believe I am weak, if I believe I cannot endure, if I believe I cannot rise, then excuses will always win. But when I remind myself that I am stronger than my excuses, I unlock a new level of self-belief. I begin to see that the same energy I use to create excuses is the same energy I can use to create solutions. The same imagination I use to justify my inaction can be used to visualize my success. The same effort I put into avoiding responsibility can be put into embracing growth. And suddenly, excuses lose their grip, because I realize strength is not about avoiding challenges. Strength is about facing them, despite the temptation to run away. And every time I override an excuse with action, I reinforce the truth that I am stronger, I am capable, and I am unstoppable. The dangerous thing about excuses is that they always feel justified in the moment. They give me temporary relief from guilt. They make me feel safe in my comfort zone. But what they never tell me is that they also steal my opportunities silently. While I am comforting myself with excuses, someone else out there is pushing past theirs. While I am telling myself it's too hard, someone else is proving it's possible. While I am saying I'll start later, someone else is starting now. And those who succeed are not those without obstacles, but those who are stronger than their excuses. Those who refuse to let their limitations dictate their actions, those who refuse to be paralyzed by fear or comfort, and those who remind themselves every single day that excuses may come, but excuses will not win, because the future belongs to the disciplined, the persistent, the consistent, and the resilient. When I repeat to myself that I am stronger than my excuses, I create an identity of strength, and identity shapes destiny. If I see myself as someone who always procrastinates, I will always delay. If I see myself as someone who always gives up, I will always quit. But when I see myself as someone who is stronger than excuses, I begin to act like it. I begin to hold myself to a higher standard. I begin to live with the awareness that excuses may come knocking, but my strength will always answer the door. And strength is not the absence of weakness. Strength is the decision to rise above weakness. And this decision must be made daily, because excuses never disappear completely. They evolve. They disguise themselves. But my strength also evolves. My determination grows, and my capacity to push through increases every time I choose action over excuse, courage over fear, and discipline over comfort. I choose faith over fear is more than a simple phrase. It is a decision that shapes the way I see the world, the way I respond to challenges, and the way I walk into the unknown. Because fear will always present itself as the more natural option. Fear thrives on uncertainty. Fear feeds on doubt. Fear whispers all the reasons why something cannot be done, why I am not enough, why I will fail if I try. And it disguises itself as protection when in reality it is a prison. But faith is the complete opposite. Faith is the courage to move forward even when I cannot see the full path. Faith is the conviction that something greater is working for me even when my current circumstances seem impossible. Faith is the power that gives me strength when everything in me wants to run back to safety. And every morning when I choose faith over fear, I am declaring that I refuse to let fear dictate the boundaries of my life. I refuse to let fear steal opportunities from me. And I refuse to let fear silence the dreams that are burning inside me. Because fear and faith cannot coexist in the same space. One will dominate the other. And my destiny depends on which one I choose. Fear often feels louder than faith because it attacks the senses. It makes me focus on what I see, what I hear, what I feel, and what I imagine could go wrong. Fear magnifies obstacles and minimizes possibilities. It takes a small challenge and turns it into an insurmountable mountain. It takes a temporary setback and convinces me it is a permanent failure. It takes rejection and makes me believe I am unworthy. And if I allow fear to control me, I will always live small. I will always avoid risk. I will always stay in the shallow waters of comfort. But when I choose faith, I step into a reality that does not depend on my senses, but on my vision. Faith allows me to see beyond what is visible. It allows me to believe that even the closed doors are leading me to open ones. It allows me to trust that my efforts will bear fruit in time. And it allows me to walk boldly even when the path is not guaranteed. Because faith does not need guarantees. Faith only needs action. Choosing faith over fear means I trust the process even when the outcome is uncertain. I plant seeds today even if I don't see harvest tomorrow. I keep moving forward even if I don't feel like it. Because faith is not a feeling, it is a decision. And when I remind myself that I choose faith, I am also reminding myself that fear does not get the final word. Yes, fear may try to shout. Yes, fear may try to paralyze me, but faith is the force that pushes me to take one more step, to make one more attempt, to take one more risk. And the beautiful truth about faith is that every time I act on it, my courage grows, my resilience strengthens, and my confidence deepens. Because faith is like a muscle. The more I use it, the stronger it becomes. And the stronger it becomes, the weaker fear becomes, until fear no longer controls me the way it once did. Fear often shows up in moments of opportunity. It tries to convince me that I am not ready, that I am not capable, that I do not have what it takes. But choosing faith over fear is the act of rejecting those lies. It is saying to myself, I may not have it all figured out, but I trust I will learn along the way. I may not see the whole staircase, but I will take the first step. I may not have every resource yet, but I will begin with what I have. Because faith is the fuel of action, and fear is the fuel of stagnation. Faith moves me forward while fear holds me back. And the truth is, most people never fail because they were incapable. They fail because fear talked them out of trying. Fear convinced them to wait until later. Fear made them believe their dreams were unrealistic. And fear disguised itself as wisdom when it was actually cowardice. But when I choose faith, I choose to silence those lies. I choose to believe in possibilities. I choose to act boldly in spite of uncertainty. Living with faith over fear also transforms how I handle challenges and setbacks. Because fear says when things get hard, quit. Fear says when you stumble, stop. Fear says when you fail, it's over. But faith says when you stumble, get back up. Faith says when you fail, it's only feedback. Faith says when it's hard, it's building you for something greater. And this shift in perspective is what separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. Because life will test me. Life will throw obstacles in my way. Life will bring seasons of darkness. But in those moments, I have a choice to let fear overwhelm me or let faith strengthen me. And if I let faith lead, then every setback becomes a lesson. Every obstacle becomes a stepping stone, and every delay becomes preparation for something greater. Faith is not about ignoring fear. It is about overpowering it. It is about looking fear in the eye and saying, I hear you, but you do not control me. It is about acknowledging the risk, but still moving forward. It is about understanding that fear may never fully disappear, but faith gives me the strength to keep going anyway, because courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision to act despite fear, and the decision to choose faith daily is what builds courage into my identity, so that eventually I no longer see myself as someone who avoids challenges, but as someone who embraces them, no longer as someone who runs from risk, but as someone who rises to it, no longer as someone who hesitates, but as someone who acts boldly and trusts the process. I choose faith over fear is the mindset that unlocks growth. The mindset that separates mediocrity from greatness, because those who choose fear settle, but those who choose faith rise. Those who choose fear stay safe, but those who choose faith step into destiny. Those who choose fear live in regret, but those who choose faith live in possibility. And every morning when I declare these words, I am deciding to be led not by doubt, but by conviction, not by obstacles, but by vision, not by what could go wrong, but by what could go right. And that single choice changes the trajectory of everything in my life. I will use my time wisely today is not just a promise I make to myself. It is an acknowledgement of one of the most important truths in life, that time is the most valuable resource I have, and unlike money, once it is spent, it cannot be earned back. Unlike possessions, once it is gone, I cannot retrieve it. Every tick of the clock is either bringing me closer to my goals or pushing me further away from them, and this is why I must treat time with reverence, with focus, and with intention. Because the way I use my hours will determine the way my future looks. And if I squander them on distractions, procrastination, or meaningless pursuits, I will look back with regret. But if I choose to use them wisely, I will build a life of progress, fulfillment, and success. And wisdom with time begins not with managing the hours, but with managing my priorities. Because when I know what truly matters, I stop wasting time on what does not. Using my time wisely today means that I am intentional about how I start my day, because the morning sets the tone for everything that follows. If I wake up aimless, if I waste the first hours scrolling endlessly or reacting to whatever comes my way, then my day is already off course. But if I wake up with purpose, if I direct my mind toward growth, if I set clear intentions, then every action that follows will flow from that alignment. And I begin to take charge of the day instead of letting the day take charge of me, because time does not wait. It does not pause. It keeps moving whether I am ready or not. And this is why I must wake up each morning with a decision that today I will not waste my opportunities. Today I will not lose hours to idleness. Today I will invest my time in actions that compound into results, because even the smallest actions, when done consistently, create massive transformation over time. When I say I will use my time wisely today, it also means I will not confuse being busy with being productive, because many people waste their lives in constant busyness, always moving but never advancing, always working but never progressing. And they mistake activity for achievement. But using time wisely requires me to measure my actions against my goals, to ask myself, is this taking me closer to the vision I have for my life, or is it just filling the hours? Because every choice has a cost. Every yes to one thing is a no to something else. And if I fill my days with what does not matter, then I will never have space for what does. So wisdom demands that I cut out the unnecessary, that I say no to distractions, that I stop letting trivial things steal the hours meant for greatness, and that I protect my time the same way I would protect my most valuable treasure. Choosing to use my time wisely today means I will also treat procrastination as an enemy, because procrastination disguises itself as harmless. It tells me, I'll do it later. It convinces me that tomorrow will be a better time. But the truth is that procrastination is the thief of progress. It delays dreams, it steals momentum, and it piles up regret. And the longer I feed it, the stronger it becomes. But when I confront it, when I act immediately instead of postponing, I take back my power, and I prove to myself that my discipline is greater than my excuses, because discipline with time is what separates those who live with accomplishment from those who live with regret. And every task I delay becomes a burden, but every task I finish becomes a stepping stone. And I know that wise use of time is not about doing everything. It is about doing what matters most consistently. Another layer of using my time wisely today is recognizing that rest itself is also a wise investment, because time well used does not mean time endlessly consumed with work. It means balance. It means knowing when to pause, when to recharge, when to reflect, because burnout is also a form of wasted time. Exhaustion robs me of clarity, and without renewal, my productivity becomes shallow. So wisdom with time means I also honor my health, I honor my mind, I honor my spirit. and I give myself permission to rest strategically so I can come back stronger, sharper, and more focused, because wise time management is not about speed, it is about sustainability. It is not about squeezing the most into every minute. It is about aligning my minutes with my mission. I will use my time wisely today also means I choose to spend it with people who add value to my journey rather than drain it. Because the wrong company can waste years of my life, while the right company can help me accelerate beyond what I thought possible. And every conversation, every relationship, every interaction is either feeding me or depleting me, and wisdom demands that I become selective, that I do not waste hours in gossip, in negativity, in circles that have no vision, but instead I invest my time in relationships that inspire, in mentors who challenge me, in communities that elevate me, because the people I spend my time with will ultimately shape the direction of my life. Every time I say I will use my time wisely today, I remind myself that life is not endless, that tomorrow is not promised, that opportunities do not wait forever, and that every single day matters, because success is not built in one grand moment. It is built in the quiet accumulation of days well spent, choices well made, and hours well invested. And when I look back years from now, the story of my life will not be written by what I intended to do, but by how I actually used my time. And that is why I must treat today as precious. I must treat this moment as valuable. I must see every hour as an opportunity. Because what I choose to do today will echo into my tomorrow. I am built for challenges is not just a motivational phrase, but a deep truth about the very nature of human growth and resilience. Because life was never designed to be free of obstacles. It was designed to shape us through them. And every time I face something difficult, every time I encounter resistance, every time I feel pressure, I must remind myself that I was not created to collapse under it. I was created to rise through it. Challenges are not punishments. They are invitations to unlock strength I did not even know I had. And when I declare that I am built for challenges, I am reminding myself that the struggles in front of me are not there to break me, but to reveal me, to stretch me, to refine me, and to prepare me for the greater levels of responsibility and success that are waiting on the other side. When I say I am built for challenges, I choose to see difficulties not as walls, but as doors, because everything worth having comes with resistance. And if I want to grow, if I want to achieve, if I want to step into the fullness of my potential, then I must accept that challenges are a part of the process. They are the training ground for champions, the sharpening stone for character, the classroom for wisdom, and the gymnasium for strength. And just like muscles cannot grow without resistance, my spirit, my mind, and my capacity cannot grow without challenges. So instead of asking, why me, I begin to ask, what is this building in me? And that shift changes everything, because the moment I stop seeing challenges as curses and start seeing them as construction, I gain the power to endure them with patience and rise through them with determination. To be built for challenges also means I have within me the resilience to stand even when everything around me feels unstable, because challenges will test my patience, they will test my faith, they will test my discipline, but built into me is the ability to bend without breaking, to stumble without staying down, to get knocked down and still rise again. And every time I come through a challenge, I emerge stronger, wiser, and more prepared than before, because the truth is, challenges refine me in ways comfort never could. Comfort keeps me soft, but challenge makes me sharp. Comfort keeps me stagnant, but challenge forces me to grow. Comfort makes me complacent, but challenge awakens my potential. And this is why I must embrace the reality that I am built for challenges, because without them I could never discover how much strength truly lies within me. Challenges also reveal the difference between those who quit and those who persist. Because many people fold under pressure, they give up when things get hard. They allow difficulties to define them. But those who rise above are the ones who remember that the presence of a challenge is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of preparation. And when I tell myself I am built for challenges, I refuse to see myself as a victim of circumstance. I see myself as a victor in training, I see obstacles as opportunities in disguise, and I see pain as proof that I am in the process of growth. Because diamonds are formed under pressure, gold is refined by fire, and champions are forged in struggle. And just as these elements need resistance to reach their purest form, so do I. And every challenge that comes my way is a step toward my refinement. Being built for challenges also means I stop waiting for easy seasons to move forward, because easy seasons rarely come. And if I wait for everything to align perfectly, I will wait forever. Life will always present me with something difficult, something uncomfortable, something unexpected. But the question is not whether life will be hard. The question is whether I will be stronger than the hardness of life. And the answer is yes, because I am built for challenges. I was designed with the capacity to endure. I was given the ability to adapt. I was created with the resilience to rise. And though fear will try to convince me otherwise, though doubt will try to whisper that I am not capable, though circumstances will try to push me down, I must remember that my very existence is proof of strength, because everything I have already overcome in the past shows me that I can overcome again in the future. Challenges also demand perspective, because if I see them as setbacks, they will discourage me. But if I see them as setups, they will energize me. If I see them as roadblocks, I will stop moving. But if I see them as stepping stones, I will keep climbing. If I see them as punishments, I will feel defeated. But if I see them as preparation, I will feel empowered. And this is why the words, "I am built for challenges," are so powerful. They reshape my perspective. They reframe my struggles. They remind me that challenges are not the end of the story, but the beginning of transformation. And if I endure them with the right mindset, they will always lead me to growth, strength, and victory. Every time I remind myself that I am built for challenges, I also silence the voice of self-pity, because self-pity makes me weak. Self-pity makes me wait for rescue. Self-pity convinces me that I cannot handle what life has given me. But strength begins when I reject pity and embrace power, when I stop saying I can't and start saying I will, when I stop seeing myself as fragile and start seeing myself as unbreakable, because life has already proven that I can endure more than I thought. And if I am still standing today, it is evidence that I have been built with resilience, that I have been designed with capacity, and that nothing I face can defeat me unless I allow it to. Because no matter how big the challenge, the strength inside me will always be greater. "I will live with purpose" is a declaration that my life will not be wasted on random distractions, fleeting pleasures, or meaningless pursuits, because purpose is what gives life depth, direction, and meaning. Without it, even the greatest achievements feel empty, but with it, even the smallest actions feel significant. Living with purpose means I wake up each day knowing that I am not here by accident, that my existence carries weight, that my talents, my time, and my energy are meant to serve something far greater than comfort or survival. And when I commit to living with purpose, I stop drifting aimlessly through life. I stop waking up without direction. I stop chasing after things that do not align with who I truly am. Instead, I anchor myself to a vision that pulls me forward, a mission that fuels my decisions, and a reason that keeps me going even when life becomes heavy and difficult. When I declare I will live with purpose, I also declare that my life will not be lived on autopilot, because too many people wake up, go to work, come home, sleep, and repeat, never questioning why they are doing what they are doing, never examining whether their choices align with their deepest values, never asking if they are becoming the person they were created to be. But purpose interrupts that cycle. It demands intentionality. It forces me to ask hard questions like, what am I really here for? Am I living in alignment with my gifts? Am I giving more than I take? And if today was my last day, would I be proud of how I spent it? And the more I live with these questions, the more clarity I gain, and the clearer my purpose becomes. Because purpose is not found in noise, it is found in reflection. And once I discover it, I must guard it, because distractions will always try to pull me away. To live with purpose also means that I stop measuring my life against others, because comparison is the enemy of purpose. It tricks me into believing I am behind when my path is simply different. It makes me envy what others are doing instead of embracing what I am called to do. And when I live in comparison, I drift from authenticity and begin to chase things that were never meant for me. But living with purpose calls me back to alignment. It reminds me that my path is unique, that my gifts are mine alone, that my story was written for me, and that I do not need to outdo anyone else. I only need to fulfill the reason I was put here, because success without purpose is emptiness, but success aligned with purpose is fulfillment. And when I choose to live with purpose, I trade envy for focus and insecurity for confidence, because I no longer need to prove my worth to the world. I only need to walk in the mission I was designed for. Living with purpose requires sacrifice, because purpose is not about comfort. It is about calling. It is not about what is easy. It is about what is meaningful. It is not about chasing quick rewards. It is about building lasting impact. And to live with purpose means I must be willing to let go of certain distractions, to walk away from certain circles, to resist certain temptations, because everything I do must be filtered through the lens of, does this serve my purpose or does this pull me away from it? And the moment I begin to align my daily choices with my bigger mission, I begin to feel the power of purpose shaping my life, making me more disciplined, more focused, and more resilient. Because when I know why I am doing something, the how becomes easier. And when I live with purpose, I gain the energy to persist even when the process is painful. Living with purpose also transforms how I see challenges, because when I lack purpose, challenges feel meaningless. They feel like punishments. But when I have purpose, challenges feel like preparation. They feel like training. They feel like refinement, because purpose gives pain a reason. And when pain has a reason, it becomes bearable, even empowering. And this is why people who live with purpose cannot be stopped easily, because they are not just working for money. They are not just working for recognition. They are working for meaning. They are fueled by a mission that keeps them going when motivation fades, and that kind of energy cannot be manufactured. It can only come from knowing deep inside that your life has a reason, that your actions matter, and that your efforts are building something bigger than yourself. To live with purpose means I must also use my time wisely, because purpose demands urgency. It reminds me that life is short, that every day is a gift, that every hour matters, and if I waste time, I waste purpose. So I must be intentional about how I spend my energy, who I spend it with, and what I give it to, because not every opportunity aligns with my purpose. Not every relationship supports my purpose. Not every environment feeds my purpose. And I cannot afford to give my time to things that drain me instead of grow me. So I must focus on what fuels me, on what develops me, and on what aligns with the impact I want to leave behind. Because purpose is not just about living well, it is about leaving something behind that continues to live after me. Every day I wake up and say, I will live with purpose. I remind myself that my life is not random, that I am not here by accident, that my story matters, and that every choice I make is either building toward or away from the legacy I want to leave. And living with purpose means that even the small things matter. The way I speak, the way I treat others, the way I use my gifts, the way I carry myself, all of it contributes to the bigger picture. And even when no one is watching, purpose guides me. Because purpose is not about applause. It is about alignment. It is about knowing that I am on the right path even if the crowd doesn't see it yet. And when I live like this, I no longer chase fulfillment in temporary things. I create fulfillment through meaningful living, through serving, through building, through becoming the fullest version of who I was created to be.